Hello students, I'm Dr. Devashri Chakravarti and this is the second lecture on the play The Cherry Orchard by Anton Chekhov. In this part of the lecture, we will be dealing with the themes, the symbols and important questions on the play. So let's begin the study of The Cherry Orchard by going through a few of the important lines from the play. Since the play is from your non-detail section, I'm not going into detail about these lines, but I have given the lines as per the character like this. These lines are spoken by the character Madame Renevskaya, and these lines are important because you can use them when you are writing a character sketch of the character Madame Renevskaya or any other character, or you are dealing with the symbolism or any of the themes. So when you have to quote from the text, you can use these lines, and these lines reveal the character of Madame Renevskaya, how she is thinking of a childhood, of a past, what are her views about love. In the next slide, we have lines that have been spoken by Lopakhin, and they also give a glimpse of the character of Lopakhin. They tell us how he is indebted to Madame Renevskaya and why he feels genuine concern for her, his own attitude towards his past, and his success. In the next slide, we have the lines spoken by Trofimov. And as we know, the character of Trofimov is one who is always having big ideas, having big theories and ideas about Russia. So these lines also portray the character of his views and his philosophy, of his memories of past related to the orchard. Now moving over to a few minor characters like Pischik and Fierce. We know Pischik is a landowner who is also in the same position as Madame Renevskaya because he is also in debt and has to repay. This is a line by him because he is always on the lookout for someone to help him monetarily. Pierce is a character who is loyal to the family and is someone who is unable to disconnect from the past and accept the new changes. So he is left alone, he is forgotten like the old days. And these lines reveal the pathetic end of Fierce when he finds he is alone and forgotten by the others. Coming over to the themes, we find that one of the major themes of the play is social change, and this social change is actually the center around which the entire action of the play revolves. It affects the individual characters as well as the society in general at Russia. Russia in the early 20th century was going through a period of transition. It was on the verge of revolution, many changes were taking place. The feudal aristocratic society of Russia, as represented by Madame Renevskaya and Gayev, it was slowly losing its stronghold. It was crumbling down. It was being shoved away by the new emerging working class, the middle class, as represented by Lopakhin. And this change also represents a conflict between not only these two classes, but also the conflict between the old world order and the new order. So, how Russian society, the largely pastoral kind of a society, aristocratic society, how it was giving way and transforming into a modern one, into a new one that was more based on industrial development and the agricultural tradition it had been following all these years. So this change is one of the most important themes of the play, and in the entire story, this change affects the characters very um, largely. The next theme that is important is class distinction. Class distinction was an important part of the Russian society. It was divided into the aristocratic class, the noble class, and the working class. The changes that happens brings a clash between these two classes. Even in the life of the characters, we find out that Madame Ranevskaya's aunt was not very pleased with her choice of a partner because she had married an advocate who was not from a noble family. And that is the reason Gayev is a little skeptical if his aunt is going to help them in this financial crisis that they are facing. Regarding Lopakin, we know that he comes from the working class. Though he has achieved a lot of social and economic success, he has raised himself in status, yet we know that he is from a very humble background, from a peasant background. His forefathers were serfs in the estate. And when he suggests to Madame Renevskaya and Gayev that they should build villas and lease them off, he is met with a lot of disdain and disapproval. Madame Renevskaya calls the idea vulgar. She doesn't like it. So, though we find that the economic gap between the two classes are uh, filling up very rapidly because of the changing social structure of Russia, where the middle class is emerging as a very strong uh, part of the society. Yet the social distinctions have not faded away completely. Even amongst the working class, also, they are aware of these distinctions and they cannot actually totally forget these distinctions. Lopakin, though he is from the working class, but because now he has raised himself in status, he admonishes Dunyasha, who is the maid servant, he scolds her that she shouldn't be acting like a lady. She shouldn't try and imitate to be a lady because she is not. So these class distinctions were a part of the society in the older times, and they still hold a lot of influence on the characters even in this changing scenario of Russian society. The next theme is loss. Each and every character of the play have a kind of a loss that they carry within themselves, a kind of sadness that they have within their characters, and that reflects on their behavior and their attitude towards life. Madame Renevskaya, for instance, cannot forget the loss of her husband and her son. Even at the present time, when after so many years she meets Trofimov, who was the tutor of her son, she is again reminded of that loss. She cannot forget how she has lost her son, her husband, how her lover has betrayed her. The sadness and the grief of betrayal is also there in her. And lastly, in the play, we find that they also face the loss of the only link they have with Russia in the form of the ancestral land. The lineage that they had carried forth since so many centuries, it was in their family, and now it is gone. They lose it because they are unable to save the orchard and the estate. Similar kind of a loss is there in the character of Fierce. He is unable to adapt to the new changed scenario of Russian society. He doesn't really approve and welcome the changes that have come. The freedom of the serfs, he did not accept that. He did not rejoice in that freedom, but instead he chooses to be with the family and serve them. He laments the loss of the old world order when everything was good, everything was nice. They knew many things to do that they could, like in the instance of how they used the cherries that grew in the orchard, how they used to pickle them and dry them and make jams of them and sell them off. So he laments that life which was 50 years back, and he's unable to accept the new changes and that loss of what was familiar to him, what was a part of his life. He laments that loss. Other minor characters in the play also have this feeling of loss and grief in them. Yepikhodov, for instance, he is someone who is always meeting with some or the other misfortune. He's always stumbling across things and falling down. And in fact, his nickname is 2 and 20 uh, disasters. So he's someone who is always associated with some kind of a mishap. Charlotta is someone who is in isolation. She doesn't know who she is or where her life is taking her. She is an orphan, and she feels very alone and lost. So that grief is there in her character. Dunyasha also, she is someone who is in love with Yasha and is very insecure about the fact that Yasha might deceive her. So she is always asking him not to deceive her and be with her, but ultimately he leaves. Yasha leaves Dunyasha. So loss and grief play a significant theme in the play, wherein every character has some or the other grief within their psyche. The other important theme of the play is memory, or their link with the past. Starting from Madame Renevskaya to Charlotta, who is a minor character, we see all the characters relate to the present, relate to the orchard, to the environment, based on their memory of the past. Madame Renevskaya and Gaev, they relate to the estate and the orchard by remembering the past life they had as children in this very estate, in this very orchard. They remember their mother and their father, remember the times when they played here in the orchard. So they always reminiscence about the house and the orchard, and for them that orchard, the estate represents the past, the happier times that they had. Similarly, Lopakhin or Trofimov, they relate to the orchard based upon their memory of it, and it is always based upon their memory as a part of the working class. And because of that, they relate to it as a symbol of oppression, of exploitation of the serfs. Every character is linked to the past and they relate to the present through the glasses of the past. Lopakin, though he has advanced in life so much, he has earned a lot of wealth and he is a rich merchant today, but still he is unable to forget his peasant backgrounds and the resultant inadequacies that he feels embarrassed about. Similarly, we see Fierce is unable to forget the old order of life and the way it was earlier. Charlotta cannot help remembering her life as an orphan and that ensuing feeling of loneliness that she has. The next important theme, which is an underlying theme, in fact, because it is not very conspicuous or very much in the foreground, is love. So the theme of love is there, but it is in the background. It is an underlying theme. And the emotion is either represented in negation or in exaggeration. People are either running away from it, or like Madame Renevskaya, she is too eager for love and she is running after love, even though if that love is not the true love. As a writer, Chekhov has restrained himself from over sentimentalizing this emotion in the play, and though it has been suggested between various characters, an affection has been shown or a soft corner is there, but it has never become the main foregrounding theme of the play. Pari and Lopakin, in various incidents of the play, we find that it has been suggested that they are supposed to get married, but Lopakin never proposes to her. His mind is only set for business, only for his work, and he doesn't want to be in love or to settle down. Trofimov is also someone who thinks he's above love, though he has a corner for Anya, but he feels that love is not something that he is going to be in. Similarly, Madame Renevskaya, as I have already told you, she is someone who is running after love. It is also kind of an illusion because the love that she's running after is not actually love, and she's betrayed time and again by her lover, but she still contemplates going back to him. Among the minor characters, there is a love triangle between Yepik Hodov, Dunyasha, and Yasha. And again, that love or that emotion is not foregrounded, it's not given much importance or significance in the story. The next important theme in the play is action and inaction. The play has two groups of people. One group is that which believes in action, which believes in taking a decision and working on it, while the other group is one which does not take any action. They just keep thinking about it. So the aristocracy is a group as represented by Madame Renevskaya and Gaev who are unable to take any action. Though they are on the verge of losing their estate and orchard, they fail to take any decision or act upon the suggestion given to them by Lopakin. The working class, as represented by Lopakin, is the class or the group of people who have always been working in their life. Their life depended upon their work and their action. So they have carried forth this attribute in the new emerging scenario also. In the new emerging scenario, this working class, this middle class is the people who are progressing very rapidly. They are uh, doing new kinds of work. They are becoming more successful. They're earning wealth. And like Lopakin, he is someone who cannot think of life without work. Even a moment when he is idle, he feels very uneasy. So he believes in action, he believes in work, and all the time, some kind of a work or some kind of action is going on in his mind, and he is very eager to move forth and take action. Varya is an exception wherein, though she belongs to the Renevskaya family, she is the adopted daughter of the family. She's someone who is always very responsible, and her work of managing the estate uh, defines her life, defines her character. And when she loses that, she is very heartbroken. Trofimov is another exception, who, though belonging to the working class, is someone who doesn't work, who doesn't take any action or be responsible for his life. He is a perpetual student who is continuing to study and is more busy with forming big ideas and philosophies regarding the new emerging Russia rather than working and being responsible. So, with this, we come to the end of our study of the themes of the play. Next, we move to the symbolism present in the play. So, there are certain symbols in the play which are very important. The first one being the cherry orchard. The cherry orchard is the central point through which, like, everything revolves, entire action, the entire storyline depends on the auction of the cherry orchard. What importance it holds for the characters, and how the changes that takes place because of the auction and the resultant sale, how it changes the life of the characters. So the cherry orchard is a symbol of the past. It is a symbol of the memory of the past for these characters. It symbolizes different things for different people. If it symbolizes happiness, innocence, and childhood for Madame Reneskaya and Gaev, then for Lopakin and Trofimov, it symbolizes serfdom, oppression, uh, and humility, exploitation, and also affection and eventual prosperity. Because Lopakin also associates the orchard with the show of affection that Madame Renevskaya had shown to him when he was a child and he was hurt. And eventually, it is the orchard, the purchase of the orchard, that brings more prosperity for him. So the orchard is not only a symbol of the past, it is not only a symbol of various other meanings that the characters relate to it, depending upon their past, but it is also a symbol of the tradition, the old world order of Russia, the aristocracy, which is gradually giving way to the new world order, emerging new world order. So the cherry orchard represents a past that is giving way to the emerging new. The next symbol is a breaking string. The breaking string is an auditory symbol because nowhere in the play we are told as to the source of that sound. The sound of the breaking string is heard twice, once in Act 2 and lastly at the end of the play. When it is heard in Act 2, Fierce is the character who tells us that this sound was heard earlier when the serfs were freed. That is, it was heard when the serfs were declared as free individuals and they were freed from their serfdom. So it is a symbol of change, a new beginning, because the beginning was that the entire society changed after this very important declaration of emancipation. So symbolically, the breaking of the sound of the breaking of the string represents a change, and it also represents forgetting, because when it is heard in the last at the end of the play, we hear this sound, and it is a sound when Fierce is alone left in the house, and he is forgotten by other people. So it is an auditory symbol that represents the forgetting of the past, and how uh, it leaves the past behind, it leaves the old order behind. The cherry orchard was a symbol of the past, of memory, of tradition, and its felling, the cutting of the trees, also represents something. The cutting or the felling of the cherry orchards that is heard in Act 4, it symbolizes a final disconnection, the final severing of the link of the new from the old. The past is totally forgotten and disconnected. It is severed. The links are severed completely when the orchard trees are cut and they fall down. So it symbolizes the final death knell for the old order, for the aristocracy and the feudal class, and the emergence of the new working class of people, the new important class, strong class of people in the Russian society. So next we have the nursery and the bookcase. These are minor symbols, and like the cherry orchard, the nursery, the bookcase, they also represent the past. The nursery is a symbol of the innocence of childhood, because it is associated with many of the happier memories of Madame Reneskaya and Gaia. Similarly, the bookcase, it symbolizes an unchangingness, a stability, because it is 100 years old and it's still intact. And so many generations of people from the family have used the bookcase and have drawn inspiration and hope and courage from that bookcase. So it represents that eternity uh, in its essence. Another minor symbol is Varya's keys. We know that Varya is someone who is very responsible, who is taking care of the estate, who is concerned about her sister, about her mother, and the future of the estate. So, work for her is something which is integral to her character. And that managing of the estate, which is a part of her character, that is being represented by the keys that she has, the keys of the estate. And when Lopakhin buys the estate, it disconnects her link to it, and she throws away the keys and leaves the room. So that is a final disconnect of a very important aspect of her character, which breaks her down completely, and she is very distraught and anxious after that. And now, after symbolism, we come to some important aspects related to the play. Like, for instance, naturalism. Many critics are of the view that the play The Cherry Orchard can be treated as a naturalistic play. Naturalism, as we all know, is a literary movement of the late 19th century and early 20th century. And naturalism was a movement that aimed at giving a very detailed and precise representation of reality. And it did this representation with the maximum amount of detached objectivity. So it was very precise in its description, and it was very objective, very detached in its representation of that reality. According to naturalism, human characters are shaped or influenced by the social conditions, the environment, and the heredity. And when we go through the play, we find all these aspects present in it. We find that Chekhov has never over sentimentalized about the characters or about the situation. He has presented in a very realistic, very objective manner. The characters are all complex and very real. Madame Renevskaya, Gaev, Fierce, Lopakhin, or Charlotta, or Varya, they all are people who are the products of the environment and their social conditions. They carry those nuances within their character. Lopakhin represents the working class. His humble origins is there. He cannot actually totally forsake them, even though he has achieved a lot of wealth and risen in position. His attitude and his temperament reflect his humble peasant origins. Similarly, Renevskaya and Gaev, they they represent the class to which they belong. So the characters are all influenced by the socio-economic conditions in which they have grown up, and further they are influenced and affected by the changes in these conditions. As we see that Gaev is a person who has never worked or taken any action, but ultimately he is forced by the changing conditions to take up a job. Similarly, we see the element of socio-realism in the play. It is a very realistic and very true to life portrayal of the society of early 20th century Russia. How the aristocracy, the feudal class, was unable to adapt to changing modern times, and how they are at the verge of losing their life and their purpose, because through the character of Madame Renevskaya and Gaia, we see that they are unable to come to terms with these changes and take proper decisions as per the situation to save themselves, to save their life and their traditions. They succumb to these changes, and Lopakin represents the new emerging middle class. How they, uh, because of their previous experience of working and hard labor, they actually take advantage of the changing situations. They emerge as successful and victorious, thriving on this change. So the element of social realism is also there in the play. Next, we move over to the probable questions that can be asked on the play. We have about 9 questions, and most of these questions we have already discussed during our discussion of the play. Chekhov intended the play to be a comedy, but it has been projected as a tragedy whenever it has been staged, and even as a reader, we find the play very tragic, especially at the end. And so there are elements of comedy and tragedy both in the play, and you have to deal with this when you answer the question that is question number 5. So you have to give examples from characters, their behavior, their language, as well as the situation, the tragic end, and the tragic quality present in the characters as well. Apart from long answer questions, I have also given certain short answer questions that are related to particular incidents in the play, to a character, or to a particular symbol individually. And in the final section, I have given some objective questions that are again related to certain incidents and characters or certain words that have been used in the play. Answers to the objective questions are also given in the presentation, so you can go through them. These are the answers. And if you read the play, the text, original text of the play, you will be getting all the answers from the play itself. So it's not something that is from the outside of the play. So you will get all the answers related to characters, the incidents, the terms from the play. And that's the last of the answers that we have for the objective questions. The play is freely available on internet, so you can search for it on Google, and you can read it free online, and that will help you in answering these questions. So with this, we come to the end of the lecture on the play The Cherry Orchard. Thank you.